You ever look in the mirror and feel like a stranger is staring back? Not the version of you everyone sees. Not the polished mask you wear at work with friends online. No, I'm talking about the version you bury. The one you deny. The one that whispers when you're alone. That version is real, and it's in control. You think you're the one making decisions? Think again. That calm, rational self you parade around, it's a puppet. And the hand inside it, that's your shadow. The side of you that feeds on fear, envy, lust, rage. The version that dreams of power but is shackled by shame. It doesn't speak in words. It moves in impulses, cravings, avoidance. It smiles when others fail. It flinches when someone stronger enters the room. It fantasizes about victory, but sabotages every path to it. You've been taught to fear this part of you, to be nice, to stay humble, to forgive and forget. That's how they tame lions, not raise kings. But here's the truth no one dared to tell you. The shadow is not your enemy. It's your origin. You can't dominate life until you confront the part of you you've spent your entire life avoiding. Because if you don't, it will rule you from the dark, quietly, silently, with perfect precision, and you'll never even know. You'll keep chasing success but quitting before the finish line. You'll keep attracting betrayal, weakness, indecision. You'll wonder, why do I keep repeating the same cycles? Here's why. You've never made peace with your own power. Because the shadow, your shadow, holds the blueprint for your strength, your dominance, your legacy. But to unlock it, you have to be willing to walk into hell with your eyes wide open. You have to meet yourself in the dark. Let me show you what they didn't teach you in school. Let's go back. Not in time, in memory. Remember when you were a child and you showed too much anger, too much confidence, too much need? What did they say? Don't be selfish. Stop crying. Be a good boy. Be a nice girl. And you listened. Piece by piece, you locked parts of yourself away. The part that could demand what it wanted. The part that wasn't afraid to roar. The part that knew it deserved more. You buried them, deep, in the shadow. But here's the problem. The things you bury don't die. They wait, and the longer you pretend they're not there, the stronger they become. They start to leak. You lash out for no reason. You pull back when you should move forward. You play small around people who radiate confidence, even if they've done nothing to earn it. You don't know why, but I do. Your shadow is testing you. Not to break you, to wake you. It's the unintegrated parts of your personality screaming for ownership, screaming to be seen, not as flaws, but as fuel. Take, for example, envy. Most people feel envy and collapse into self-pity or pretend they don't care. But you, if you're wise, you'll listen. Because envy tells you exactly what you want. It points to the life you should be living, the strength you should be owning. Your shadow doesn't lie. It just doesn't speak the language of politeness. You see someone with wealth, dominance, influence, and your gut twists. That twist is a map. It's not saying, hate them. It's saying, why not you? But most ignore it. They call it toxic, negative, sinful. They shove it down and live quiet lives of quiet resentment. They judge others for being bold, while secretly wishing they had the same courage. That's the shadow running the show, and you'll never master your mind or your fate until you drag it into the light and make it yours. Let's go deeper. Ever wonder why you keep repeating the same painful relationships? You attract betrayal, disrespect, weakness, again and again. It's not a coincidence, it's a mirror. Your shadow attracts what it needs to show you who you really are. You want loyalty? Then stop betraying yourself. You want power? Then stop fearing your own. Every time you say yes when you mean no, the shadow smiles. Every time you shrink so someone else can shine, it grows stronger. Not because it hates you, because it's trying to break you free. But here's where it gets dangerous if you keep ignoring it. If you keep denying it, it turns against you. That's when self-sabotage becomes destiny. That's when depression sinks in like quicksand. That's when people wake up at 40, 50, 60 and realize they were never really alive, they just followed the rules and died obediently. But you, if you're still watching this, you're not built like that. You want more. You want to master the chaos within, to become sovereign, untouchable, good. Because I'm about to show you how, not by destroying the shadow, but by becoming one with it. When you stop running, when you stop pretending to be this harmless, pleasant, acceptable version of yourself, you reclaim the parts that were stolen from you, and in that moment, something shifts. The voice of doubt becomes the voice of power. The fear becomes the fire. The guilt becomes clarity. You stop being a pawn and start becoming a player, and the game, it's about to change. But we're just getting started. Let me ask you something. Why do the most powerful people in history, emperors, CEOs, warlords, always seem a little dark? You feel it, that quiet intensity, that sharpness, that fire behind the eyes. It's not just charisma. It's not just intelligence. It's not luck. It's integration. They don't run from their shadow. They use it. They don't silence their rage. They shape it into strategy. They don't suppress desire. They turn it into fuel. They don't avoid their fear. They study it until it becomes a weapon. While the world plays dress up, trying to be likable, digestible, soft, the powerful look into their own darkness and say, I see you, and you will serve me. That's the difference. Most people try to heal by running from their darker instincts. But healing without integration is just spiritual sedation. What you repress will possess you, but what you own will obey you. Let's get real, you're ambitious. You want to dominate in business, relationships, life. You want to command rooms, earn respect, make people feel you before you even speak. But how? By faking positivity, by memorizing tactics from influencers who've never bled. No, you need to become someone the world cannot ignore. And that begins with walking into the mirror and meeting the beast you've buried. Here's how it happens. In real time, you're in a negotiation. You feel yourself shrinking, playing nice, giving too much. You walk away feeling defeated. Why? Because the part of you that could have stood up, the part that could have said, no, this is what I'm worth, was locked in the basement. You buried it years ago when someone called you too aggressive. And now, that shadow sits in silence and watches you fail over and over until you wake up. Same thing in love. You attract people who don't see you, don't respect you, don't show up for you. But deep down, if you're honest, you're afraid of being powerful in relationships. You fear becoming too much, so you dim your light, you shrink your presence, and the shadow watches, not to punish you, but to show you. This is what happens when you betray yourself. It never stops. Not until you go in and face it, alone. You want to be free? Then stare directly into the parts of you you're ashamed of. The jealousy, the resentment, the greed, the lust, the need for recognition, for power, for control. Don't judge it. Study it. Ask, what are you trying to teach me? Because inside every sin you've been told to reject lies a truth you've been dying to accept. Look at history. Julius Caesar was ruthless, but his ambition reshaped Rome. Napoleon was obsessed with domination, but that obsession turned him into a symbol of human will. Steve Jobs? Tyrannical, perfectionist, demanding. And yet, his shadow gave birth to a digital empire. Their darkness wasn't their downfall. It was their edge, and you, right now, have the same weapon buried inside you. But only if you stop pretending it isn't there. Only if you stop playing small to keep the peace. Because peace without power is slavery. And you were not born to be tame. There's a moment every warrior faces, a breaking point, where the lies they've told themselves collapse, where the mask falls off, where you look in the mirror and realize, I'm not who I've pretended to be. That moment is violent. It's terrifying, but it's sacred, because that's when the real you begins to wake up. The one who doesn't need approval. The one who doesn't flinch in chaos. The one who doesn't beg, he builds. She doesn't chase, she chooses. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the world convinced you to hide. Think of the shadow like a dragon guarding your treasure, and that treasure is your potential, your intensity, your hunger, your clarity. You can't slay the dragon. That's the lie weak men tell themselves. You ride it. You learn its language. You train it to burn down everything that stands between you and your throne. But how? Start here. Tell the truth. Not to the world. To yourself. Where are you faking it? Where are you tolerating less than you deserve? Where are you pretending to be okay when your soul is screaming for more? Tell the truth. That's how you start to reclaim power. Truth is the bridge between your mask and your shadow. And once they meet, once the civilized version of you shakes hands with the wild, you become something terrifying to the system, a human being who can't be controlled. And when that happens, people start to notice. Not because you said anything, but because you changed your frequency. Your presence shifts. Your voice deepens. Your gaze hardens. You don't have to say you're confident. You radiate it. You don't have to tell people to respect you. They feel it when you walk in. That's not magic. That's integration. The war inside you goes quiet because all sides of you are now aligned. Not just the good. Not just the light. All of you. That's when your ambition stops being theoretical. That's when your goals stop being dreams and start becoming inevitabilities. Because now, when resistance hits, you don't flinch, you don't crumble into excuses, you expect the storm. You were built in it, and your shadow? It smiles because it's finally being used for what it was always meant for. Victory. But the path doesn't end here. You've started to see it. The hidden war behind your eyes. Now it's time to take it further. There's a moment when something in you shifts. You stop apologizing for your hunger. You stop explaining your ambition. You stop flinching when people call you intense, arrogant, too much. Because now you know they don't fear your flaws. They fear your potential. They fear what happens when you stop playing by their rules. And you've looked the shadow in the eye. You've seen the chaos inside you not as a curse, but as capacity. Capacity to dominate, to lead, to conquer. This is where you step into your final form. Not the victim, not the survivor. The strategist. No longer prey, but predator. Not in the cartoonish, aggressive way the world tries to warn against, but in the way that shakes empires and rewrites history. The quiet predator is the one you never see coming. The one who blends in, waits, learns, and when the time is right, strikes with precision. That's what happens when you integrate your shadow. You don't react emotionally. You respond surgically. When someone disrespects you, you don't argue. You don't explode. You log it. You measure it. You decide if it's even worth your energy. And if it is, you handle it. Once. And without noise. Because now you own your aggression. You own your darkness. You're not scared of it anymore. You've trained it. Most people, they're slaves to impulse. They get triggered. They lash out. They make excuses. They say, that's just who I am. No, that's who they haven't mastered. But you're not reacting from wounds anymore. You've cauterized them. You've made peace with your scars. You're no longer haunted by old memories. You've harvested them. Every betrayal, fuel. Every loss, blueprint. Every failure, forge. And this changes everything. You stop craving approval. Because the moment you make peace with your shadow, you realize you never needed anyone to validate you. You only needed to understand yourself. You were born with everything you needed. But the world buried it. They handed you shame and told you it was morality. They gave you guilt and called it love. They trained you to be soft, tame, agreeable. But the kings and queens of this world, they were never meant to be nice. They were meant to be necessary. And now you are necessary. Necessary to your mission. Necessary to your vision. Necessary to your people. That means you must lead. That means you must command. And to command, you must be unshakable. Let me show you something deeper. Your shadow contains not just rage or hunger or pain. It contains the archetypes you were born to embody. For some, it's the warrior, the part of you that was built for battle, for discipline, for confrontation. You've tried to soften it. It only made you anxious, weak. For others, it's the sovereign, the part of you that was born to lead. But you've dulled your voice, avoided conflict, surrendered power, and now your body aches from the weight of unfulfilled potential. Some of you carry the magician, the thinker, the strategist, the manipulator of symbols and ideas. But the world called you weird, intense, so you hid your brilliance behind sarcasm and withdrawal. Now it's time to reclaim those masks. Not as illusions, but as identities. You don't wear them to hide. You wear them to operate. The shadow is the doorway to these archetypes, and only those brave enough to walk through it get to wear the crown. But make no mistake, this journey isn't for everyone. Some will choose the numb life, the predictable one. They'll watch others rise and rationalize their failure with shallow wisdom. They'll say, "I didn't want power anyway." They'll settle for peace, not realizing peace without power is a coffin. But not you. Because now, you know too much. You've tasted what it means to see clearly. Feel your own presence in a room and not flinch. Carry silence like a sword. Watch the world move around you and realize you no longer have to chase anything because you are the gravity, you are the pulse, the eye of the storm. This isn't arrogance. It's clarity. Because when you master your shadow, you stop looking for safety. You become it. You stop chasing love. You radiate it. You stop begging for worth. You command it, and the game becomes different. You're no longer trying to win approval. You're choosing who gets to be close. You're no longer trying to survive discomfort. You run toward it, because discomfort is no longer danger to you. Discomfort is the arena, where your shadow trains, where your true self sharpens. That's where you're headed. Now that's where your new life begins. A life where your power isn't hidden, but harnessed. A life where you stop negotiating with weakness. A life where your emotions don't control you. They inform you. A life where your shadow no longer sabotages you. It guides you. Not softly, not gently, but ruthlessly, lovingly, with a kind of brutal wisdom that only those who've suffered understand. This is your evolution. No longer a fragmented self, but a forged self. And you're ready. But this journey doesn't end with control. It ends with legacy. Let me show you how it all comes together. You've felt it your whole life. That something inside you was watching. Not judging, not punishing, just waiting. Waiting for the moment you'd stop pretending. Waiting for the moment you'd stop lying to yourself. Waiting for you to remember who you really are. And now, you're here. You've walked through the fire. You've stared your shadow in the face and didn't run. That alone sets you apart from most of the world, because most people are terrified of the truth. The truth that their weakness is a choice, that their silence is complicity, that their comfort is a cage. But you chose the descent. You went beneath the mask, beneath the noise, beneath the programming. And what you found wasn't a monster. It was you, unfiltered, raw, unbreakable. Now everything changes. You don't live by default anymore. You move with intention. You don't ask for permission anymore. You take what's yours with clarity and purpose. You don't try to be a good person. You become a whole one, capable of both creation and destruction, and wise enough to choose when. That's the paradox the world never taught you. They told you to be light, to be kind, to be soft. But they never taught you to choose your light. They never taught you to earn your kindness by confronting your cruelty. They never taught you that to be truly soft, you must first become truly strong. That's what you've done. You didn't kill the darkness. You integrated it. You didn't silence the shadow. You trained it. Because when you reject your shadow, it controls you from the dark. But when you accept it, it becomes your greatest weapon. Think about this. How do powerful people move through life untouched? Why do they seem immune to guilt, to doubt, to manipulation? It's not because they're heartless. It's because they know who they are, fully. That they've made peace with their rage, their lust, their hunger for control. They don't act on impulse. But they don't lie to themselves about what's inside. Other, they know that to influence others, they must first master themselves. That's where your power now lies. You no longer live in fear of being exposed. Because there's nothing to expose. You've already seen it all. You've dragged the skeletons into the light. You've faced the mirror that most people spend their lives avoiding. Now your decisions come from alignment, not avoidance. Your power is no longer borrowed from books, mentors, or surface affirmations. It's earned, it's embodied. And when you speak, people feel it. Not because you raise your voice, but because you no longer need to. Your presence carries weight now. Because it's backed by something real. An inner silence. Command. A gravity. That's the gift of the shadow. It doesn't just teach you who you are. It teaches you who you're meant to become. And now you understand, the shadow was never the enemy. It was the guardian of your full potential. It hid your power until you were ready to wield it. Not safely, but wisely. And you're ready. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're no longer afraid of the questions. You've passed the test that most never will. The test of self-confrontation. The test of walking into your own darkness and walking out with a crown. So here's what you do now. You live it. Not once. Not in bursts. Not when it's easy. You live it daily. You wake up and you choose to lead your life instead of watching it happen. You walk into rooms like you belong there. Because you do. You say what needs to be said, not cruelly but clearly. You stop apologizing for your intensity because your fire is what lights the path. And if they call you dangerous, good. That means they feel your power now. That means they know you can't be manipulated, sedated, or ignored. That means your shadow is no longer controlling you from the dark. It's walking beside you as your ally. And this is only the beginning. Because once you've mastered the inner world, the outer world bends. People will try to figure you out, but they won't find a script. They'll see a mirror, and it will scare them or awaken them. Either way, you're not here to be understood, you're here to be felt. Because when you live from your integrated self, you don't chase impact, you become it. Now listen closely. If you're watching this and something inside you shifted, don't run from it. That feeling isn't fear, it's recognition. It's your shadow whispering, you're ready. So step in. Fire. Drop a comment. What truth did this awaken in you? Thumbs up like the video if it woke you up. Bell. Subscribe for more dark truths, elite strategies, and psychological power. Movie camera. Watch next. Insert next recommended video. Because the more you confront your shadow, the more unstoppable you become. And there are secrets still waiting in the dark, but only for those bold enough to look.